according to reports. Want to touch on what's up with Malik Monk. Nothing is necessarily up, but it's interesting the way this is being spun because you guys probably talked about this. We had a couple days ago, Grant Afseth in the Dallas Hoops Journal saying Sacramento has been, quote, trying very hard, end quote, to trade Malik Monk this offseason, but they haven't found a taker. Okay.
We didn't talk about that at all.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what Grant Afseth said.
Of course.
Then you had this from Mark Stein over the weekend. Kings have maintained an interest in unsigned free agent Russell Westbrook, but I'm told that they have indeed explored the possibility of creating a backcourt opening for Westbrook by other means rather than dealing Monk. So it sounds to me like the Kings got some bad publicity out of the report that they're trying to trade Monk. So they tried to push back on that a little bit. And here is what Mark Stein said. He said, after Sacramento explored various trade scenarios earlier this summer involving Malik Monk, league sources say that the Kings are not actively engaged in such trade talks now. The Kings have maintained an interest in unsigned free agent Russell Westbrook, as I just read. Monk is said to have made a positive impression in Sacramento, not only with his play, but how he has embraced his role in the franchise as a King, end quote. Which, I mean, I guess you can't say for sure, Jay, but you always have to try to guess what's the source of this information. Monk has been said to have made a positive impression in Sacramento. That's clearly coming from the Kings, right?
I would think
the
so.
Kings clearly pushing back on this narrative that we're just desperately trying to get rid of Malik Monk. They didn't say that wasn't true. They just said we're not doing that now.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
I'm with you. I read it. I think the Mark Stein report definitely comes from the organization. And I don't know about the Grant Afseth report. I won't even touch that. But the fact of the matter is if there is a feeling throughout the league that Malik's value is not as high as it's been, then if you're the Kings, you better push back on it and immediately.
Yeah.
Because even if you can't, spin him, Malik is very passionate. He's the type of guy that sometimes feels like wears his emotions on his sleeve. All we get to do is see, Malik on the court, and that's what I'm talking about. I don't know about off the court, but he's definitely one of those guys that can be up and down when it comes to, your emotions. It feels that way. And so you want him in the best headspace. You want him in the best position, and you want him doing what Malik do.
Yeah.
Which is assassinate other teams when he off the bench.
I don't think this is intentional, but a few times, and especially after the Afseth report, it started to look like the Kings were almost making Malik Monk the fall guy for what went wrong last year. Again, I don't think they're intending to do that. But, he played point guard last year after De'Aaron Fox was traded. And you had Scott Perry in his first conference with the media saying, we don't have a point guard. Well, I don't think he meant anything at Malik, but Malik was the point guard. And they're saying, we didn't have one. And now you get the reports that, they're trying desperately to trade him. I'm glad they pushed back on this because it was starting to look like they're blaming him. And I don't think they are. But here's why it'd be hard to trade Malik Monk. You go back to last year, Malik Monk, free agent, right? So he could go anywhere to any team that was willing to meet his price tag. There was not a lot of interest. Apparently Detroit had some interest. So if a year ago, nobody wanted to pay him and bring him in, how are you going to trade him to a team now that would have to pay him and then also give up something to get him? So it'd be very difficult. It's not hard to see why the Malik Monk market is not robust. If teams didn't want him for just the money a year ago, they're not going to want him now for the money plus some assets they have to give up. So I could see how he's difficult to trade. The thing that has just been making my head spin is why in the world did the Kings want Russell Westbrook? We had Jerry on a couple weeks ago. I asked Jerry. Jerry said, I don't know. I think I figured it out, Jay. I'm not saying this is a good idea, but I think this is their thinking. I don't know this for a fact. This is just me guessing. No one has told me this. But one of the things the Kings have to improve on this year, if they're going to be better at all, the defense has to be better. It has to be, or they have no chance to be better. Malik Monk is not a good defender. We don't talk about that much because his whole job is coming off the bench and scoring, and he's great at that. He's not a good defender. Russell Westbrook has been not all league, but he's been a better defender than Malik Monk. And I think right now he gives you a better chance defensively. According to one of the reports, the Kings are interested in having Russell Westbrook be the sixth man. So if you can bring in a sixth man who he's not Chris Paul, but he's played point guard in the NBA. He's a legitimate point guard and he's a better defender. I can see how you would look at that and go, we are better having Westbrook do that than Malik. Again, I'm not saying it's right, but at least I understand. Okay, at least I see what you're thinking.
I think I'm in the same wavelength as you. I look at it as the two things that I think Russell Westbrook is still elite at is these two things for me is his passion, his attitude, his effort.
Yes, I agree.
There's not many people in the league who's going to out effort him, be more passionate, and bring more attitude.
I agree. He plays as hard as anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's the first thing I think, that he comes in, and I'll even throw the leadership on that. But it kind of crosses over to my second point. But I think
he sets a tone.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that.
He immediately comes in, and that's my number two is when he comes to the locker room, a bunch of young guys that are going to be a part of this team immediately have to say, damn, that's a Hall of Famer. And not in the form of DeMar DeRozan, but that dude right there who's in his mid-30s, and I'm 23 or I'm 25 or I'm 27, and this is the guy that they're talking about could be out the league, but he in there outworking me, and he's setting the tone, and I'm hearing that same tone from our head coach, Doug Christie, and I'm hearing that same tone from assistant coach Bobby Jackson. As a young gun, as someone that they're trying to develop, the Daquan Plowdens, the Nick Cliffords, and everybody else, if Russ is outworking me, I got a problem.
Yeah, if a 36-year-old's playing that hard, I have to play at least as hard.
And so those two things I think he brings is the effort, the passion, the leadership. And then the second part of it is he's going to set the tone. Because he's the type of guy, from everything that I know and hearing and talking and listening to people, when he comes in, he's a great teammate, but he's going to push you and prod you to be the best that you possibly can be. And he's going to go, as Coach Brown used to say, turn on the jets. Russ is turning them on. Soon as he comes through the door, always
turn them off.
Absolutely.
And I've never been a big Westbrook guy, but I recognize that. Well, you're right, Jay. He plays. Him and Bobby Jackson come to mind to me like the two of the guys that play harder than anybody I've ever seen.
Right.
Yeah.
He is almost an extension of who Doug Christie would want to be, I think, and Bobby Jackson and probably Coach Woodson and some of the other people, Scott Perry too. He is the guy that is the barometer. If you can't move like Russ, then we don't want you a part of this. He's a culture setter. He is a trend setter. He's going to give you everything that he possibly can be. As I always consistently ask people who dislike Russ, and not you, but, well, what's wrong with Russ? And they talk about his shooting and all that, but you never get, man, he dogs it. He never, we don't know if he's going to play. Like, you never get those things. And I think when you, or if you, follow me here, Whitey, if you want to change the culture, if you want, because that's what we always talk about, culture. If you want to change that up here in Sacramento, there's no better person who's going to come in despite all the fans, and they talk about what's on the court and how he gets into it with fans and people disliking. I'm talking about behind closed doors. I'm talking about over at the G1C. I'm talking about professionalism on the plane. I'm talking about professionalism to the Nick Cliffords, people that you've drafted in the first round the last couple of years, guys like that who need to be taught that, who need a change of scenery, who need to be like, you know what? That how many times do we get players on here always say, man, that guy, he was my guy.
Yeah.
Meaning he was my vet who took care of me, who showed me the ropes, who told me go over here to Merrill Lynch. Don't go over here to Bank of America. That's what Russell Westbrook is about. And if you want to change the narrative of what's going on with the Sacramento Kings, guess what he is going to do? He's going to come in and demand from everybody else that he playing. This is, we got to be, we need to operate like this.
Yeah, the question becomes then, all right, if Westbrook is coming in, and again, if the reports are accurate, which they may not be, 100% accurate.
Right.
But if it's true that the Kings want him to come in and be backup point guard, 6-man type guy, then where are you going to play Malik? So that's the issue, because that's been his role. This statement to Mark Stein talked about, among other things, how Malik has embraced his role, but it sounds like that role would be changing. So clearly the Kings would, to me, it's clear the Kings would like to move Malik, but at the same time, they don't want to make it look like we can't wait to get rid of this guy, because that doesn't do anybody any favors, especially if you end up not being able to trade him.
I don't know about that, but I hear what you're going. I hear where you're going.
Yeah. What don't you know about?
Because I'm not sure they're.
You don't think his role would have to change?
No. I'm not sure that they're gun-ho to get rid of him. I think if they were gun-ho, and maybe I'm just misinterpreting what you're saying. I don't know if they're gun-ho to just say, hey, here you go, because I think they would have been done that by now.
Yeah. Well, again, this is the Afseth report. Doesn't mean it's right. He said the Kings are, quote, trying very hard to trade Malik Monk.
Yeah, I'll wait on somebody. No disrespect to him, but I'll wait on somebody with a little more bravado, a little more connect.
Yeah. The Kings did feel the need to push back on that, so that they did notice it.
Well, good. Hopefully that's Scott Perry and his crew saying, man, listen, we're done with all that negative connotation around here, brother.
Whether that's true or not, if they had Malik and they had Russell Westbrook, I think Malik's role would have to change a little.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I would definitely think so. Unless you go to Russ and say, again, you are a guy who's going to be at the end of the bench. You are Jay Crowder. You might get a little run, something get a little fishy. We may need you to jump in there and showcase your muscles, but you're really here for your veteran leadership, so to say.
Yeah. Set the tone with your effort.